Debate, the honourable member for South Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me first echo the comments of the Leader of the Opposition in response to the news earlier today, and again offer my sincerest condolences to the family of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who was murdered near my home in Surrey. Crime, chaos, and disorder. This is the Prime Minister's legacy after 8 years. This is the direct result of his dangerous soft-on-crime policies. Canadians' lives and sense of security are being destroyed in record numbers by criminals who should never have been out roaming the streets in the first place. Canadians aren't feeling safe in their communities, on public transit, at public events, or in coffee shops. They are rightfully worried that they may be the next victim of the Prime Minister's crime wave. The government's own statistics illustrate a stark reality. Violent crime has gone up 39%. Gang-related homicides are up 108%. Sex crimes against children are up 126%. Gun crime has increased every year and is up over 100% since 2015. His response? Go after law-abiding hunters. Across the country, murders are up 43%, the highest rate in 30 years. In Vancouver alone, murders have gone up 55%, and firearms-related offences up 22%. In the last 7 months alone, 8 police officers were killed in the line of duty. 8 in 7 months. These statistics are alarming. We in the federal government, charged with national security, can never forget that they're more than statistics. These are real crimes happening to real people with devastating consequences. Commuters carjacked at gunpoint, students lit on fire on the bus, teenagers stabbed at the subway, executions in the street and parking lots and driveways. This crime wave is a direct result of Liberal legislation passed that was sponsored by the most radical Minister of Justice in Canadian history, the member from LaSalle-Verdun. His bill broke the bail system. And where is he now? No longer in Cabinet. Under his bill, C-75, the Catch and Release Act, violent offenders are arrested, then released on a promise that they will appear in court, then commit another offense within hours. They have time and opportunity to commit crimes literally morning, afternoon, and evening. Take Vancouver, for example. As my colleague just mentioned, the same 40 offenders were arrested 6,000 times in a single year. That's 150 arrests each. Last year in Toronto, there were 17 gun-related murders committed by violent criminals out on bail. This summer in Edmonton, a father of 7 children was stabbed in the chest, murdered at a transit station. Again, the accused was out on bail. The crime wave is evident in BC as it is elsewhere. In Surrey last April, a 17-year-old boy named Ethan Besflug was stabbed and killed on a bus. A few days later, a young man was stabbed on the SkyTrain. In August, a man was shot in the face at a Surrey bus stop. Recently, at Vancouver's Light Up Chinatown Festival, meant to bring the community together, a man who previously had murdered his teenage daughter by stabbing her, stabbed 3 people. Last Thursday, Vancouver police arrested a man for 4 assaults committed in the span of 45 minutes. He used a chain and a concrete block. One of the most horrific incidents in downtown Vancouver was last March, and it was videotaped and shown on social media. A man standing outside a Starbucks was brutally and senselessly attacked, stabbed to death in front of his wife and daughter, again in broad daylight. Mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, friends and neighbors. Sadly, the urgency of this crime wave seems to be lost on our new Minister of Justice. Just days after he was sworn in, he said, quote, "I think that empirically it's unlikely that Canada is becoming less safe," end quote. He is in complete denial of the dangerous reality on the streets. He's telling victims of crime and Canadians who are rightfully concerned, many living every day in fear, that it's all in their heads. Even by Liberal standards, this was a ridiculous statement, and frankly, he should apologize for it. For Liberal elites in their ivory towers, understanding the reality Canadians are facing in our communities is a difficult concept. I am pleased to see that the Liberals have finally woken up and are paying some attention to the heinous violence committed by criminals on bail. They should be listening to the experience of frontline law enforcement officers. Constable Kerry-Lynne Yang was tragically and senselessly stabbed to death while on duty by a man who was arrested for assault and out on bail on the condition that he would appear in court. He failed to appear, a warrant was issued for his rearrest, and when Constable Yang found him living in a park in Burnaby, he murdered her. The case of Constable Yang is sadly not isolated. Last December, Constable Greg Pirchala was shot and killed in the line of duty. The accused was out on bail, has a lengthy criminal record, including assaulting a peace officer, and was the subject of a lifetime firearm prohibition. Did I mention that he was shot? Following this despicable murder, all 13 premiers wrote a joint letter to the Prime Minister demanding urgent action. Finally, after public blowback, the united call for change from the premiers, and fierce criticism in this House from the Conservatives, the Liberals have finally admitted they broke the bail system. Today, the Liberals have brought forward Bill C-48. We should all support this bill because it imposes reverse onus on certain firearms offenses and requires courts to consider the violent history of an accused. This is the reason Conservatives asked for unanimous consent to pass this bill today. The NDP initially denied consent, but have since agreed with Conservatives that this bill should be passed today at all stages. It is our view that C-48 is a good start, but still falls short, and a Conservative government will take steps to strengthen it. The legislation in its current form ignores several key recommendations put forward by the premiers, including the creation of a definition within the criminal code for serious prolific offenders and to initiate a thorough review of Canada's bail system. Under Bill C-48, the accused killer of OPP Constable Pirchala and countless other repeat violent offenders would have still been released back into the community. Under pressure from Conservatives, the Liberals have now proposed a partial fix to an obviously broken bail system. Conservatives can be counted on to fight for common sense, thorough, and meaningful improvements when we form government. It remains doubtful that the dangerous NDP Liberal coalition will ever put the rights of victims ahead of the rights of criminals. Last year, this coalition passed Bill C-5, removing mandatory prison time for serious crimes, including robbery with a firearm, extortion with a firearm, discharging a firearm with intent, drug trafficking, and production of heroin, crystal meth, or fentanyl. Bill C-5 also expanded the use of house arrest for several offenses, including criminal harassment, kidnapping, and sexual assault. Thanks to NDP and Liberal MPs, those who commit sexual assault can serve their sentence at home in the same community as their victim. Think about that. The Liberals and NDP would rather be on the side of violent men than their female victims. There is perhaps no greater example of this than the case of Paul Bernardo, a notorious serial rapist and killer of teenage girls. These Liberals allowed that monster to be transferred out of maximum into medium security over the objections of the victims' families. We brought a motion to the House calling for Bernardo to be returned to maximum security, but Liberal members denied consent. All this is proof that the Liberal Party and their partners in the NDP cannot be counted on to protect victims or to restore safe streets. For that, we need a change in government. A common-sense Conservative government will bring home desperately needed safety to our streets, and will do it by ensuring that prolific offenders remain behind bars while awaiting trial. And the days of catch and release will be over. After 8 years, crime, chaos, and disorder in our streets is the new normal. It should never be normal. Conservatives know we have a lot of work ahead, but we will fix our broken bail system and we will bring back safety to our communities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires? The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, thank you, my honourable colleague, for her speech. It was a pretty wide-ranging speech that touched on a number of things. I think it contributed to the debate, but in some cases did not. We're talking about bail conditions and how do we deal with people who commit crimes on bail. She raised the incident of the tragedy outside the Starbucks in Vancouver where Mr. Schmidt was knifed to death, but that was by a person who was not out on bail. So I'm not sure what that has to do with the legislation that we're under consideration. But my question is this: is the current bail law in this country is that bail can be denied when an accused criminal record is taken into account, and particularly if they have failed to comply with past bail conditions or court orders. So it's the law now that bail can be denied by a judge if someone has failed to comply with bail conditions in the past or if they have a repeat criminal record. So can she explain to us why she thinks the current law is not sufficient to keep those people in jail on bail pending their trial when that's the law right now?
Honourable member for South Surrey White Rock.
Thank you for the question from my colleague. The reference to the horrific murder outside the Starbucks is about the rise in violent crime generally in Canada and in my province of British Columbia that we see playing out, unfortunately, including on social media, where people actually, it's hard to even say, but tape and send out on social media videos of actual murders of Canadian citizens. That was one such situation. It's horrific, and it's brought about by an overall attitude by the Liberals and NDP in their coalition that is soft on crime and does not deal with the most prolific, repeat, violent offenders. That's who we want to see targeted in our criminal code legislation, and we will take the steps to do what's needed to get that job done.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Calgary-Rocky Ridge.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I think that the member did a great job in her speech of going through the litany of all of what has unraveled in terms of our criminal justice system under the current government. But during the debate, the Liberals are stepping back as if they had nothing to do with the problem that they need to fix, and taking credit for just following the recommendation that provinces have made on bail reform. So if the member would like to maybe take a moment again and just reinforce the extent to which it is specific action that this government has undertaken over the last 8 years that has brought us to where we are today.
Member for South Surrey White Rock.
Well, thank you to my colleague for his question. And of course, the concern is over the philosophy of catch and release. I mean, it's a term we use usually for when you're fishing, but it has come to mean someone is arrested, sometimes for a violent crime, early in the day. And the police see that person going down the street in the afternoon, and they end up arresting them for another crime. Then they see that person in the evening, same person, and there they are again, arresting them for something they have done with criminal intent. This idea of catch and release, this endless revolving door, does not work. There is no deterrence at all in a system like that. And when we're talking about people prone to violence, when we're talking about people who will attack with chains and concrete blocks, who stab strangers they don't even know at public events, this is destroying confidence in our justice system. And at the end of the day, the federal government has control over the criminal code and over sentencing and how this should go forward.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires? The honourable member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Madam Speaker, it's always a pleasure to rise on behalf of the people from Kamloops Thompson Caribou. Before I begin, I just want to recognize a constituent who passed away, Ms. Anna Russo. I know that she leaves behind a daughter, Pina Russo, and her daughter, Susie Russo, who was beloved in the Italian community, predeceased her. So my condolences to the family. Now, my question to my honourable colleague is this. The member from Vancouver just mentioned, people could be detained on their record. I recently spoke to a prosecutor who told me that somebody was in court for a bail hearing with 12 open files. 12.
Wow.
Would my colleague agree that this is out of control given those circumstances and we're not just dealing with 1 or 2 times of repeat offenders?
A very brief answer from the Honourable Member for South Surrey Whitelock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And ultimately, we're dealing with an approach to dealing with criminality. And when the approach is do the least amount necessary, that's what ends up happening. The least amount is done in response to egregious acts of criminality.
Resuming debate, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice. And